guys, welcome to my tutorial. This one is my first one and a free one because we are doing the lightsaber applique. This pattern can be customizable. It's just based on your starting chain. So we're gonna do a chain of 11 for the tutorial, but feel free to chain as much as you like. If you're doing like a big blanket or a larger wearable, you're gonna definitely want to do more chains. Just make sure that you also do more rows of each color to give it the thickness needed for the length. So we're gonna go ahead and start off here by chaining 11 so that we can only do one row of each color. That way the video is not too long. So we're going to start off here with our 11, and then we're going to do 10 single crochets down the chain. Once we get to the 11th chain, we are going to skip the chain on the hook and single crochet into the next. So that's going to leave us with the 10 single crochets. So there's my 11th, and then we're going to skip the one I just made and go into that 10th and put our first single crochet in. And then again, we are going to single crochet down all the chains to the end. Once we get to the end, we're going to stay in that stitch to put an increase of 2. In this video, I don't use stitch markers, but I will go ahead and let you know when to put a stitch marker in if you're not quite as familiar with this style of crocheting. I make a lot of bra cups, so at this point, it's pretty easy for me to point out the top stitch. But again, I will go ahead and let you guys know when to use the stitch marker. So as we're crocheting down, we're just going into one of the loops on the chain down to that 10th. And here we are in that last one. So we're putting that 10th one in. And now we're going to put 2 more in that same spot. But on this next single crochet that you're going to put in, that's where you're going to put your stitch marker in. That's going to be the top stitch. So we're going to go ahead and put that top stitch in, and then one more in that same one so that we can crochet back down the other side. So we'll single crochet, put your stitch marker in, and then one more single crochet into that spot. If you're not sure where to begin, go ahead and just start from the bottom and count up. The one you just did would have been 1, and you need 10 single crochets down the side, so we're going to count up to 9. There's that 9th, so that's where we're going to go ahead and put our hook into and single crochet down to the end. Now for me, this is going to be the end of the white. I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull through and start on my next color. If you've done longer, feel free to skip ahead and follow the same pattern, increasing at that stitch marker at that top stitch every time. That'll be the same pattern we're going to follow for all the colors up until the very last row or very last color, where we're going to change the placement of the increase to round out the top. So here we are getting to that last stitch, and then we're going to go ahead and switch colors. So I'll meet you back once we get to the next color. Ignore me fighting with getting it into the right spot so that the hole wouldn't be too big at the end. I had to pull it off camera to fix it. And it was the same spot as the first attempt. Alright, let's go ahead and get ready to switch over to the blue. You can do any color you want, just make sure that you have 2 versions of it, a light or bright, and then a dark version. Unfortunately, I didn't have any bright light blues, so I had to go with this baby blue that you'll see here in a moment. But I think it still gives a good result at the end. Great project for scrap yarn for sure to use up some of those colors. Alright, so now that we've got the blue, I'm going to go ahead and get the yarn on my hook so that we can follow this same pattern moving forward. You'll see me mess with the tails here. I personally like to put the yarn or the hook through the yarn and then attach the new color, pull it through, and then I take both of those tails and I hold them together and tuck them to the back so that way I can tie them in a knot and hide them behind a stitch later and don't have to weave in my ends. If it's going to be for a wearable, I would still weave in the ends and not do this method just to make sure it's a little bit more sturdy. If it's just an applique you're adding to something, then you don't need it quite as secure, but you'll see that way I can also kind of pull the knots through the stitches, so that way it's less visible and kind of more cohesive. So we're going to go ahead and just keep single crocheting till we get to that top stitch or your stitch marker if you're using one. All right, now as we're back at the top, you'll see we have the 1, 2, 3 stitches at the top. We're going to be increasing in that one. And so we're going to put 1 single crochet here. And then we're going to do 3 single crochets into this stitch. That second crochet is going to get your stitch marker because it's going to be the top stitch. So here we go. This one's going to be the one that you'll put that stitch marker in, and then one more into that same spot. And now we're going to single crochet back down to the end, chain 1, cut the yarn, pull through, and that's going to be the end of this video, but not the end of the tutorial. We still have the dark color and then the handle. In the next video, I'll have the dark color, which is going to have a different spot to increase to keep that round shape, and also offer 2 different ways to do the handle just based on preference. One involves sewing, one does not. So yeah, I will see you for video 2.